Right.
Okay, yeah.
Got 10 minutes.
10 minutes, okay? Okay, slaying. So we're talking about...
10 minutes.
Oh, what, you mean to slay the ego?
Yes, in 10 minutes, Sabbir.
I've lost a second already.
This is your challenge, okay?
Okay, the first one to slay is time, then. So, we need to slay all belief systems related to time and limitation. So time is a limitation. And time is in fact, might as well start with that. Time is in fact a huge belief system, you know. And actually there is a unconscious belief system which is saying 1 second has passed, 2 seconds has passed, 3 seconds has passed. So you want to slay the interest in time and the interest in all ideas related to that even time exists. As you let go of all interest in time and all interest in the beliefs related to time, then you'll get the experience of presence, timeless presence. So everyone's experienced times in life when there hasn't really been time. It's been timeless day, timeless moments, where there's no tracking of time. In fact, you know, there is a common expression, time flies when you're having fun. But I would say, even when there's no tracking of time, there is no time. You're actually in the timeless, and the timeless is pure presence, pure love, pure unity, beyond even the idea of time. And there is no tracking of time. There's a loss of time. So that belief system in the tracking and the interest and all ideas related to the concepts around future, past and time need to be cancelled, or they're not real. They're just ideas. So let that go. So that's part of slaying one aspect of the ego, of letting go of one aspect of hooking into time within the ego. Other aspects, okay, a very, very important aspect is what I shared before. It's the thing of what Ramana and Muji referred to Ramana, that all things that you chase on the outside, you know, when I get the Ferrari, when I win the lottery, when this person changes, all these ideas, what's happening with these ideas? If there's great interest, you know, when this person becomes nice, or when this person leaves, or if only this sensation in the body would go, or if this medical condition would go, all of these things, then there's great interest in a belief system, and there's also great interest in any idea, any belief system is already hooking, if there's interest in it, is hooking you to limitation. Like, when this person changes in the future, then everything will be okay. It's already a huge belief system that ties you into all kinds of belief systems around limitation. That future exists, time exists. When a certain situation in the future changes, then I'll be okay. All of these actually are very seductive and keep you into the continuation of the ego with huge interest. So one of the ones which I've shared before is getting the right career. That was a big one for me. I'll feel okay when I get a job in the stock market. But it's like, so what's happening there? What happened there? So Ramana Muji described the mechanism of the ego. So I repeat this mechanism time and time again so that you unlayer illusions, unlayer the ultimate hatching ground for the ego to hook onto all its ideas around things. And that is that when something changes in the future, or when I get something in the future, or when this situation changes, then everything will be fine. So it's a belief system which has many aspects to it. But what's happening, very quite simply, is that what was described, and this whatever belief systems you're holding in mind, you know, if this goes away, if this person changes, if this illness goes away, or if whatever it is, whatever thoughts that are really dominating your consciousness at the moment, if you can choose any one of them, and just use it with what I'm describing now. So with me, it was like one of the ones I had was, one day when I get a job in the stock market, then everything will be okay. I'll be fixed. Everything will be sorted. I'll be in peace. I'll be loved. Life will be easy. And I had this, so really what's happening there was really I had a very loud thought, which was vibrating very, very strongly. One day when I get a job in the stock market, I'll be happy. And what actually happened was one day I was offered a job in the stock market. Actually, it was after years of struggling and trying with great intensity. This one day when I get this thing that my ego said, this thought, this happened. And I had a job in Vienna, selling stocks. And, you know, as soon as I got on the airplane, what happened was, as soon as I got on the airplane, I saw this other man. He was dressed extremely smartly. And, you know, he looked like he had landed a job in the stock market. He was just like, had this immaculate look, immaculate hairstyle, immaculate shirt, 100% pressed. I looked at him, I'm going, he's going to the same company, you know, because the company had booked me a ticket, and they must have booked everyone else on that flight a ticket from London that they'd recruited, and he's one of them. And I had that feeling of arrival, like, yeah, this is it, I've made it, ecstasy. And I felt this kind of ecstasy on the airplane. I'm off to my dream job, and there's people, my dream colleagues are on the thing, and I'm going to be successful, and life's going to be easy, and everything. I had that huge euphoria. And as soon as I got to the company, which was, I think, was it on the second or third floor, and it was like a small little back office, and I looked at it and I thought, this is not what I was expecting. And immediately I felt unhappy. So what really happens with any thought you hold in mind about changing anything in the future, or anything related to time, is that by having that incessant thought, I'm disconnected. You see, that was disconnecting me. So here's the trick of the ego. It's like this thought, you know, the ego is saying, when you get this, or when this changes, everything's going to be okay. Actually, when you do get the thing, everything is okay for a short period of time. You know, what happens? So this is the secret mechanism. You know, it's like, oh, as soon as you've got it, it's like for a moment, there's like absolute peace and happiness and bliss. You know, and what Ramana said was that bliss and that peace is just the absence of that thought saying, one day when I get this thing, I'm going to be happy. So you get that, and all that is, that peace I experienced on the airplane, that I'd finally gotten the thing I was looking for, I was on my way to it, that bliss and peace and happiness was actually just my ego shutting up. So for a moment, it stayed quiet. You've got the thing. As soon as you get the thing you've been struggling for, you are really, really happy. But then as soon as I got there, and I looked at the place, it wasn't the right one, exactly the right thing. So then suddenly I lost my peace. But the ego quickly came up and said, not this company. You need to get a job in the next company. And the next company is going to be a bit bigger office than this and more prestigious. And then you'll be happy. So I immediately purchased the thought. Oh, I was happy, you know, so I'm in a cycle of always chasing something and then getting happiness temporarily, and then my ego saying, you need the next thing. So whatever I'm chasing, or whatever the belief systems are, I want to let them go, because the truth of who I am is eternal peace, eternal love, eternal unity, which means no separation, eternal timelessness. So all of those things are always constantly present. They're constantly my heritage, or as was said before, only love is real. When I engage in anything which is related to duality, separation, thought, and give it significant interest and meaning, then really what's happening is I'm setting myself up on a cycle. I'm getting out of presence. I'm starting to be very interested in thoughts or images or concepts, and then they have an illusory hook. You know, for me, being an addict, there's an illusory hook to chasing things, never-ending chasing things, and getting the ego gives you temporary happiness when you get things you're looking for, and you go, yeah, and the ego subtly reinforces, look, it works. But it works for a while because it shuts up for a while, and then it says, but this has to change a little bit, or it needs to be slightly different. And then you're back onto the next one. So to slay the ego for me means that I want to be peaceful I want peace and presence and timelessness and joy and a feeling of expansion or limitlessness and timelessness. And I claimed that as my truth, as the absolute truth. And any idea or concept or thought or anything that ties me into bondage of unhappiness because I haven't got something, and then temporary happiness as soon as I get it, for me, one of the big things is to label that as illusion. So this is lesson 16, okay. So for me, so there's no such thing as idle thoughts, and every thought you have contributes to truth or illusion. My own take on this is that, later on it says not to make any distinctions. This is quite difficult until you will find it is still hard for you not to make artificial distinctions in it. And for me, of course, certain thoughts will come up. For me, it's to be done with every single thought without necessarily trying to edit the thoughts that are going, like, oh, well, this is a good thought, so I'm going to keep this thought because it's a loving thought, or this is a bad thought. For me, it's like you do it on all the thoughts, because and it has been a common theme throughout the Course in Miracles, is to let go of the internal editing process of, I want to keep these thoughts but not let those thoughts go. So, there are no such thing as idle thoughts, and it's either with fear or love. But for me, it's like the whole interest in the ego is dismantled through not making any distinctions in it, so that one can be a clear channel to getting the thoughts which are not originating out of the thought. So it's to do it on every thought for me, even if I have a good thought like it's great to win the lottery, still that is not a neutral thought, or because this thought about winning the lottery is not a neutral thought, so I'd apply it to that. Otherwise the ego will still be, there's a layer of interest and meaning still being placed onto the ego field, and that will block off higher levels, so that one can't get to the place of pure observing without interest in the layer of thoughts. So then thoughts come out intuitively and spontaneously, but are not being orchestrated through a field of interest in what's there. Otherwise the ego will just, what my ego has done, wanted to do, is of course selectively hold certain thoughts, like, well, I'm not going to apply the Course in Miracles to this thought because I want to keep this thought, because it seems to be a good thought. And it's even that, if you're going to properly slay the ego will slyly hold on to, it's like, well, this thought's a nice thought, I don't know what it could be, like, oh, I've just got a Ferrari, so that I'm not going to say that this thought about having a Ferrari is a neutral thought because I'm going to keep that one. No, you want to do that as well.
Can I add something? Or?
Yeah, please do.
But it's also fair to say that it's only when you identify with the thought that it becomes not neutral, isn't it? Because thoughts come and go. They're just like anything else. It's all neutral until we identify with it, isn't it? That's when it becomes non-neutral, because we all give it meaning to it, isn't it?
Yes.
So even the thought of what did you say? Winning the lottery might come.
Yeah.
It's neutral until you say, oh yeah, winning the lottery. Yeah. That feeling comes, isn't it?
Yes. So you're getting to greater and greater layers of losing. You see, for me, when the ego was very, very strong in me, it was like huge interest and huge meaning being given to all the thoughts that are going on in the ego. And that for me, because you could say that the Course in Miracles is to take away the blocks of separation to the oneness and unity and the love that exists. So it's like, when I was so interested in what my ego was saying, then it's like I'm feeding. There's layers of interest and meaning. It's really, really feeding the ego enormously, and then it's coming up with ideas to suppress feelings, which then increases the level. So the feeling of separation is magnified. So eventually I became like locked in a body, full of self-hatred and self-loathing, and I was projecting all kinds of negative things onto everybody around me, so as you let go of let the suppressed feelings come and just do it on every single thought, then you get to higher and higher states of I'm not going to say this in proper English, you get to more and more states of limitlessness. So it means, or expansion, means that the interest in the layers of thinking are starting to do. And eventually, like you were saying, there's no interest. I mean, thoughts may come and go, but one of the things with thoughts coming and going is, I think, a very, very important phenomenon, which I endlessly share in this room, because I think it's so important that you need not be a victim of any thought or feeling that comes. No thought or feeling you need to be a victim of. And there's a very, very simple thing, and hopefully when I share it, I've shared it so many times, but everyone will recognize the truth in what I'm saying. And I was in this meeting a long time ago, and I was talking, and then I mentioned the traffic noise outside. And then people were aware of the traffic noise, but before I mentioned it, I think most of the room, or all of the room, weren't aware that there was a lot of traffic noise outside. So what does that mean? It's a very important thing with layers of meaning and interest given to thoughts and feelings, is that really what's making them so loud, and you being so disconnected from states of unlimited peace, unlimited unity, unlimited oneness, unlimited energy and power, the creative source of the whole universe, is just the ego has been so interested and hooked into various aspects of the external world. But if you let go of all interest into any phenomena, you could say in a sense it doesn't exist. Even if, so like most people would argue to me, if there's traffic noise outside, you have, that has power over you because it's a physical noise, so you shouldn't be able to hear it, but it's not true. It's not true. If there was no interest given to the traffic noise, and there was loud traffic noise outside, you wouldn't hear it. It wouldn't exist for you. So what about the ego? What would happen if you let go of all your interest given to all the thoughts going on? Then you would open up to, the ego would cease its existence. I mean, you'd have the faith that something will take it over, spontaneously, intuitively, thoughts will come, but they don't originate from that layers of interest and meaning that have previously been given, which have tied you to layers of restriction. So what about physical conditions, like I share many times? I mean, you'd think something like physical pain, or like depression, or like anger, these things are, but when you start to get to the higher layer, they just disappear, and they tend not to even happen again. As these but in the beginning there's a process of unlayering the interest and meaning given to feelings in the body. The miraculous thing from my own experience is that even physical illnesses, as soon as they disappear in your head, in my experience, often they just disappear miraculously as well. It's like, as you've done all the spiritual work to make it meaningless, so what if you can't breathe? So what if there's a pain in the body? Just feel it, and then you connect to something that is observing it, and you keep doing it day after day, and then eventually it doesn't bother you. And then suddenly, actually, doctors tell you don't need medication, or suddenly that illness or a transplant arrives, or as it's gone from inside, suddenly it's like the universe matches it and just takes it away. That kind of thing, the miraculous happens. So, also people as well, like with my mother, if you've got someone really, really difficult in your life, if you do the Course in Miracles, my own experience is that as you make the thoughts and the projections meaningless about her, a bad relationship has transformed into a great relationship, because you can't get hooked into it. You can't get sucked into the meaning, the drama of what that individual is. And so it's like when you're connected to that channel, all kinds of things start to occur, and you can't get hooked in. So even a person, you can do it with a person as well. If you let go of all meaning and interest, it's just like traffic noise. It's like you don't get hooked into it. Just like one wouldn't get traumatized if one just suddenly brought a plant into the room, because it has no meaning. So, but for some people, they react to a certain person when they see them, and that's because of so much projected meaning. Otherwise, they're as meaningful as anything else. Or physical symptoms. As you let go, if there's great exhaustion or tiredness, I've got a Muji DVD where I went to Muji and I had kidney failure at the time. I had exhaustion, tiredness. And he just asked, what's observing? What's observing all this tiredness? And suddenly it was just gone in a click. Suddenly there was endless energy and I felt totally well. The exhaustion disappeared in a split second. So all of these things, whatever is here, you know from your experience, it's just the interest and the meaning that's hooking you into layers of pulling you into the limitless. Okay, so
can I just ask,
yeah.
I've just had this thought.
Yes.
How come the course doesn't speak, let's say in that lesson, and a few lessons similar to that one, about feelings? It only talks about thoughts. Or is it because the thoughts are connection to the feelings? Because sometimes I have a sense that they're not actually. They arise before a thought has proceeded, if you see what I mean.
So again, they...
My question is, right, how come this course, those lessons, those few lessons, doesn't talk about feelings as well? For example, thoughts or feelings are neutral. Well, feelings are equally neutral too.
Yeah.
So it doesn't speak about feelings, it's only thoughts, it speaks about feelings, and I'm wondering why.
Okay, that's a
What's
very
your
good
take
question.
on
And
that one?
yeah.
I just had this thought now as we were reading it. I thought that's interesting. Yeah. Is it because they are connected? Thoughts arise out of the feeling. Sorry, feelings arise out of the thoughts. But my experience is sometimes they don't actually. Just the feeling comes without the thought preceding it. If you see what I mean.
Yes.
Yeah.
I believe that I think course is more focused on it doesn't tell you it's gonna take you somewhere awakening or anything. It's about facing your ego and forgiving your ego that then it's not real. And I think, and that's to me, feelings. I know what you're saying, because why not sort out, because you get the feelings that you don't understand that comes.
Along with the thoughts there, saying the feelings.
But I think that's more like a bodily thing, It's not physical, but it stays in places in the body, and it feels, I don't know. Yeah, like you said, so it's kind of it's a symptom of the thought, or it's what comes out of a thought, like you're saying. I think maybe. It's so if you don't have that belief in that thought, you can release that feeling as well, no? I don't know. I mean, yeah.
I don't know. Sometimes I do have a feeling
Advaita stuff that goes to, about the yoga and stuff like that. There's a specific things you can do to actually go to those feelings, isn't it? It doesn't say in Course in Miracles, but there's a way to.
Yes.
Yeah.
I'm just wondering.
Yeah. I know what you mean. I'll ask that question as well, because
Oh, really?
I know I can deal with my thoughts, because but then feeling comes and I feel very horrible and
Exactly. That's the easy part in a way.
Yeah. But then suddenly it goes or something. So
yeah.
Thanks.
Yeah.
I think it's an amazing question, really good question.
Yeah.
And I think I would like to see what is the connection between feeling and thought. And I think that probably the Course of Miracles points to, this is what I understand, to a place. I was reading this book, and this guy talks about there is only two emotions in the universe, and then he says it's not two, it's only one. It's only one emotion, which is love, and it's polarity, which is fear. So I mean, probably fear even doesn't exist. It's just a lack of love. It's just, as far as I walk from the love can be fear, and from fear comes all the negative emotions.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
And I think the Course of Miracles is, the way I understand, is trying to take me to that place of pure love, no fear.
Yes.
So probably there would be no emotions in that. So that's what I said. What is the connection between thoughts and feelings, or between ego and feelings?
I think I know. I get it now. I think. I think it's just a sensation until we give it meaning, isn't it? Just like thoughts. We have a sensation. There is no such a thing as
thoughts, though. They're similar to me. They're similar because they're both neutral, really. Because we think, we have a feeling of something. I've got a feeling of, abandonment, but that's not real.
No, it's
because,
just sensations.
often,
but we
if
give
you
it.
sit down and you kind of really feel it and you kind of transmute it, it's not there. Therefore, it's not real. From my experience, it's definitely not real. Therefore, that's why my question.
Okay. Yeah.
It is not real, definitely.
It's,
because it kind of goes, you know.
It's not
whatever
real
you
until you
exchange.
attach something to that sensation that
Yeah.
you have something is if you, whether it's negative or positive, it's still a feeling, that sensation that body as a body experiences, yeah. Like,
Yesterday when I was having that piercing pain, I could have said this is meaningless.
Mm.
I should have said it, but I didn't think at the time because I was in that pain. So just say it's meaningless.
Especially deep-seated emotions and feelings, they are, to me, they're very similar in some ways, you know.
I think it's the
To
same.
Jesus about it.
To me, they're the same, actually.
They're exactly the same, I
To
think.
me,
The more I
yeah.
think about it,
Absolutely.
it's
you
just
know,
sensations, thoughts, or
That's right,
perceptions.
exactly.
It's
Or
the same
sometimes
thing.
it just arise, they come from, you know,
Yeah.
whatever.
Yeah.
Brilliant question.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah.
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 Oh,
Wow. Yeah. Big wow.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's kind of awesome. This is the easy part, really.
Yeah.
That's brilliant answers as well, and from everyone. And I mean, it's a great question. And I guess what's coming through to me today, I might say something different on that. And I'm connecting to what everyone said as well. I mean, I think what you said about the truth is we're just love. Everything else is not real. In fact, you could say the ultimate truth. And so, you know, the course does talk a lot about form. You know, this is a form. And I mean, I would interpret it today that even feelings are a type of form that is that one can project meaning or interest to. So I mean, for today I'm saying anyway, I think I would label a feeling as another thought. And maybe a feeling is a thought in a way. You know, in a sense, what's been shared is the manifestation of thoughts creating things which are illusory compared to the absolute truth of true love, infinite oneness, unity and power without any limits. So what was being said is, like I've shared before, like when I had the white light spiritual experience, and in that place there was no duality even existed. So there was no me, there was no you, there was no world, there was nothing, but it was like infinite power and love and bliss that is not describable in ordinary terms. That's what existed. And then when the ego came back in and Muji was opposite me, then it was like absolute bliss. I was aware of the world, not really aware of the body very much, but there was like this overwhelming bliss. And when I went onto the tube, it was like every person that was witnessed, there were just tears running down my eyes because everything was seen to be absolutely divinely beautiful. And then as the interest in thought, because I had to go to work, started to layer, then eventually that feeling started to fade. So in terms of the course, you know, what's real and what's illusion, it's like there's layers. The more you're hooking into thoughts, it's like one goes into it's like a step-down transformer. When there's no interest or meaning given to thoughts and images and all the ego mechanisms, it's like one is living in a different reality of expansion or love, then it becomes more contracted. And then even the physical ailments and stuff seem to grab attention. And there seems to be more physical ailments, because for me, when the ego is rampant with loads of thoughts, lots of physical ailments are likely to occur. And even death, you know, at the end you're doing behaviours which literally drive you to death, either consciously or unconsciously, you know, through addiction mechanisms or other mechanisms to end life, consciously or unconsciously. So I think it's a brilliant question, and I think as well, maybe, I mean, I think there was something in what was said. I mean, the Course that believes that all of this is not real. It's all an illusion.
Yeah.
So only the thoughts create a manifested world of physical pain and feelings, but the root, possibly, I'm not sure, possibly, you know, the Course is saying that the thought is the starting problem for the manifestation of feelings and ideas of separation and hooking into the world. But I'm not sure. I mean, I think that was coming to me.
Yeah, sorry. No, but it's so true what you said about there's only love, you know, and the Course only talks about basically all we're doing is just giving love or calling out for love.
Yeah.
And we cannot tell, we can only identify as a body and a separate being to be negative or positive or good or sad, or we can only we don't know what it really feels as a body. So, yeah, and so it's always the same, or it's just the same thing in polarity, isn't it? Yeah.
The only way the ego can take me away of that pure love is manufacturing a belief system. And that's what ego does, constantly, unfortunately.
Ego is very materialistic, isn't it?
If it exists, you try to exist as a materialistic. I'm talking about the ultimate what probably the course of miracle is going to take me. So if from the negative, if from the lack of love, which is extreme polarity is fear, come all the negative emotions and feelings. And the belief system is the feeling will come from what I don't have, what I don't possess. If you will leave me, what is going to happen tomorrow and yesterday. So the place I think the Course of Miracle describe, which I decided to call it God, is that place of no time or temporal, pure presence in time, and only one emotion, which is love. And it sounds a bit metaphysical, but it's what I really, we pointed to. And when we talk about emotions and feelings, usually we're talking about emotions and feelings, the ones we are afraid of, which are pain, anger.
Not necessarily. Not necessarily. I was talking about fear, feelings more that came into my mind. Let's say feelings of, let's say maybe childhood or past life feelings, like feelings of abandonment, or feelings of not being loved, or feelings of but then they do. I think I agree with you. They originate from fear. It's possibly unconscious fear.
No, but just love comes through. But that's what we want it again and again. That it isn't the same things when you get a brand new car or something. And that feeling of a big present. That feeling of like niceness. Like wow, finally I can feel this. Like when you have another donut. So but it's that same that love comes through. But it's just we can only interpret it as whatever we've been chasing, and it will go again because we can't keep it, or so yeah. Yeah, so yeah.
Can I add one more thing? It's a passage on the book where it said that the father doesn't forgive because he doesn't have to forgive. Yes. He doesn't have anything to forgive. So that place is, it's nothing to forgive because it's nothing imperfect exists. I think that's what the probably the answer to, or somehow the answer to the Course of Miracles. And most of the spiritualities, I think, point to that place.
Yeah.
It's brilliant. Yeah.
Amazing question.
It's an amazing question. You brought up a lot.
Look what you've done.
Sorry.
But it's just the same as anything else, isn't it? It's part of us that want to make that special as well, isn't it? That's why it can be sound confused. That's what I was confused about. It's part of me that I want feelings to be something bit special, bit kind of intimate, and because you have good moments with feelings and stuff like that. And then but the ego's right there with us, like
I wasn't thinking of the ego, the feelings of you kind of you look at a flower, and you observe it, and you say,
I'm talking about good feelings.
It's the same.
Yeah, it's the same because it's also a trap. Because you want it
Yeah.
as a separate thing, and it just reinforces separation. I'm separate from that. That means I have to go and get it. So that kind of feeling, because I feel good about it and stuff. You know, it's still it's always a disguise. You know, it feels good to do it, but behind it, you know, it's always
Yes, yeah. So it's like it's crafty, and I mean as well with the different, you know, as you're at the lower levels. So if only love is real, then as you let go of the layers of the ego, the whole world starts to shift. So like total disconnection, there's a world of fear and destruction, and that seems to be the reality, but it's not. It's really the absence of love. And actually, so you could say you're in a non-reality. On a certain level, maybe, of course, doesn't experience that as the ultimate truth. That's like an absence of truth, you know, because there's only one reality here. Like in this room, there's only amazing love and power and light beyond imagining. And to the extent that there's a layer of interest and meaning given to the fields of the ego or feeling and feelings. It's like it seems that for every person there's a different world that exists in this room. You know, if there's extreme interest and projected meaning onto the thoughts and feelings, then it's like, actually, I feel very trapped in my body, and there's all these aches and pains going on, and the thoughts are usually of a very highly negative nature at that level. So it's like total absence of the light's not on. And as you let go, and then it's been my experience, as you go up the layers and do the course and allow the feelings to go, then it's like suddenly you get you're living in a different world. You realise that I'm no longer in that dark, small place with such highly negative thoughts running around. Now it's a little bit better. There's a greater feeling of expansion. Still got body identification and stuff. Then you get to the states where you're not really identified with the body, and there can be detached witnessing of feelings coming and going. So all of that, they start to lose their power, and they start to disappear as well in that way. So
I keep getting feelings of, I had it in my bathroom today, I was brushing my teeth and I kept thinking, I'm out of control of everything. And I just really felt it inside of me, and then I just said, well, that's okay. And as soon as I said that, it was all right.
Yeah, that's really
it was
good.
all right. But I did feel absolutely out of control. I just thought, and it could have gone one of two ways where I went, ah!
But the feeling of wanting to control causes so much suffering.
Yeah.
To me, like, you know, because you cannot control this world. It's chaotic. It's always, you know, it might be good for it, but it's always going to be bad. The body decays, everything goes bad. But there's this feeling that you want to be on top of it. It's just wrong. So it's alright to say you don't know, I can't do it.
But I'm getting that since I started this course, right? So it's got a lot to answer for, because I'm getting it a lot, and I'm starting to just say, but it's okay, because sometimes it's really overwhelming. I'm out of control.
Yeah.
What, you know, and what can I do
We've been taught that way, so you know.
So I let it go, and it's just, sometimes it's so powerful, I'm just like, and then I go, no, it's okay. And now I'm going to say it's meaningless.
It's meaningless.
I'm going to say it's meaningless to everything. A postman, it's meaningless. Shut the door, you know. It's just meaningless, and that will help. It's like we need these affirmation.
Absolutely. The meaningless one is actually one of my favourite lessons from Course in Miracles. I mean, because I love the meaningless one. Yeah. And any time my ego comes up with something that's meaningful, actually this is one of my automatic tools. Let's say I don't know what I use donuts all the time, don't I? I'll use donuts again.
Don't worry.
Okay, I'll use donuts again. It's like, you know, if suddenly like someone put a donut in the middle of the table, then it'd be like, suddenly my whole world would change, you know, in the past. It'd be like, I'd lose my attention what everyone's saying and what everyone is, and there'd be like super interest and meaning being given to that donut on the table. And all kinds of thoughts about how to get it and all kinds of things. So we'll start to go on. And, you know, there'll be feelings of anxiousness, this feeling of lack within, and this is going to sort of be the answer. So all of this would be, so I'm in a sort of an alternate world now. So if that was to happen, I mean, donuts I've had food obsession for many years now, because I'm in recovery in 12-step fellowship. So that doesn't happen, but there was a time when it did. And so it would be quite simple, is that, this is really causing you a problem. So Course in Miracles would be one of the big things, you know, actually would now have a donut or make a picture of a donut and go, that donut is equally as meaningless as this cup of water. And I look at the donut for 1 second, because the Course has also taught me to give everything you see equal amount of time. It's really important, because you want to break out the levels of interest that you give to different types of form in the external world, feelings, images, people, places and situations. So there's the donut, and that's the big thing. That's like the emptiness inside, or the lack to the connection of the true love, means that there's great interest and fixation and meaning being highly projected onto that thing, which is disconnecting me from unlimited love and light. So, okay, I look at it for 1 second, and that donut is equally as meaningless as this cup on the table. I look at the cup for 1 second, and then I say, which is as equally as meaningless as the carpet on the floor. I look at the carpet for 1 second, and then I'm looking at random in different directions, and I say, which is equally as meaningful as the light bulb in the thing, which is equally, and I keep doing that on a daily basis, and it starts to break it up. You know, it's like, you know, do I really want to eat a light bulb right now? Not particularly, because it's meaningless, it has no power. It's like the layers of projected meaning and interest through doing the two things. It's equally as meaningful as a cup, and also giving it equal time, and then looking around the room equally at meaningless things. It breaks up everything. And with the course, for me, you know, one of the main lessons, I'm saying this one, I'm not a victim of the world I see. I think that's the lesson. I'm not a victim of the world I see. And I would say I even see feelings. Even feelings are observed and witnessed. And the body's sensations are witnessed, coming and going. The thoughts and the feelings, for me the feelings that are arising, okay, I'll make a distinction here because it was a very good point. Only love is real. Everything else that's observed coming and going is blocking these levels of duality, levels of interest into different this and that and form. Eventually, if you unlayer the ego, greater experiencing of expansion and more stable peace and love starts to occur. You know, so the ego becomes very, very terrified of the course. In the beginning, I just want a quick note on people who are doing the course or start to embark on the course, because the ego will rebel, because the course is extremely high level thing. But I would say with it, you know, if you hear that, if what's being said resonates as truth, then have courage to do the course and allow the feelings to come up, because what's going is the unreal, what's going is the limited, what's going is that which is disconnecting you from the unlimited love, power, light that is always available and has never abandoned you. But it's like that layers of interest into these things have put one into an alternate reality, or an illusory, like in terms of the course of the illusion. You're in a world of illusion and separation, and you have to use something which was said before, which you don't really need to use, but in the world of illusions you need to use the tool of forgiveness or letting go, until the whole cloak of duality and separation and illusion is taken off. And then you don't no longer need the tool, because you don't need to forgive anyone when you're connected in those states. It's ridiculous to think, I need to forgive, you know, I need to forgive the donut for what it, you know, for the temptation it gave me. It doesn't exist when you're connected to those high realms. But for me as well, now feelings was mentioned. I mean, the Course does sort of say, God did not create cancer, so it's not real. So, you know, for me, also as well, what's really important as well is when you have belief systems, they have the power to manifest. So when you cancel the belief system, quite often the things that are connected with, oh, you know, I haven't got cancer, but I've got cancer of the lung, oh, there's so much pain here. If you start to cancel your belief in cancer, that will have a profound effect on the cancer. My belief in painful cancer in my lung will also have a powerful effect. So, okay, so does anyone want to come in before we do the lesson? Oh, I mean, we have anything else to say before we start?
Oh, I see, yeah.
I guess just what you just said about the cancer, I guess you could also add on, you know, that once you cancelled the existence or the pain, then you're also cancelling out the feeling of fear or sadness connected with it.
Yes. Yes.
So like the feeling will go with the thought cancelling, it's the same.
Yes, I would, you know, for me, the thing with, I mean, if the ultimate truth, if the ego is not hooking into any layer of form, so we're going to the realm of the formless, yeah, or the limitless. So then, for me, even to put a label on anything, you know, that label creates form. So, you know, I cancel my belief in painful feelings.
Yeah.
God did not create painful feelings, so they're not real. Maybe that might be a way. God did not create painful feelings, so they're not real. Because the word pain and the word feeling, there's 3 layers. There's pain, and there's feeling, and there's also location. And also you can have like time-related beliefs as well. Because we're going to the limitless, the timeless, beyond all boundaries and beyond all form. We're connecting to that. So the belief systems are already creating, there's multi-layers. So lesson 14 from A Course in Miracles, one of my favourites, says, be specific. Be specific. It doesn't say like, I cancel my belief I'm ill. It says label it, cancer. So there are subsets of beliefs with anything. So let's say there's the belief in cancer, there's the belief that in pain, and there's the belief in location, like cancer of the lung. So you do actually, of course, does say to be specific. And as soon as you have a label, actually, the technique I do about feeling feelings is to let go of labeling it, so you can get to the formless, you see. So you want to cancel all aspects of belief systems related to form. So cancel the belief in cancer, cancel the belief in pain. Pain is also a belief system. Pain is just a word, it's just a label. But it creates, as soon as there's a thought, it's actually manufacturing a certain type of sensation as well. So it has the power to manifest. So even if you say pain, it will, even if you say pain, it will be creating. So you want to let go of the, even when doing, but cancel the belief in pain. Because pain is a word, and it has the power to also create form. So fear, so you'd have pain, fear, guilt, shame. These are, if it's related to anything, I'd cancel those words as well. Cancel belief in cancer, cancel belief in pain, cancel my belief in cancer in a location. So those are all subsets of the whole collective system of belief systems expressing. So you want to cancel. One of the things with Course in Miracles, there's no order of difficulty in miracles. Now, part of the problem is that we're all tying into the collective. There's a layer of collective belief systems and conditioning. For example, like a doctor will say, this drug has this side effects, and there's a layer of collective beliefs around this. Or if you've got a cold, it's going to take 2 weeks to recover, you see. So you want to cancel any sort of belief systems you think you may have around it. Or if I get the flu, it means I'll have a runny nose. I'll have like a runny nose for 2 weeks non-stop. So you want to cancel, because all of these are like belief systems connected with it, and they will manifest because there's a layer of form which will also have the power. So if you just take it to the formless, to the timeless, to the limitless, to any expression of languaging that is being projected onto it, it will allow you to more quickly let things go. Did I answer the question? What was the...
No, that's very...
I forgot what the question was.
It's all the same.
Can I also add that Course in Miracles is, I think it's really good because there's help that immediately, because we don't really talk about Holy Spirit, but when you can't, it is a bridge to, we can't directly access God or this power, so there's this the bridge, the Holy Spirit there. So if you, the situation where it comes with, I have this, but I really don't know what's happening, I'm just going to let Holy Spirit deal with it. Like you were saying, I'm not going to control myself, but you're worried about things in the future and stuff, you can just give it, and that's how, that's how what's amazing in Course in Miracles, it doesn't necessarily manifest things in the world all the time, but you get brand new ideas about the world that you become peaceful about it, and it's so powerful. And then and then Course says, we do not know our own best interest. We think we're doing things in the right way, but we really don't. And then we just gotta give it to the Holy Spirit, and it's. And what's more amazing about it, there is no restriction, it's unlimited. You can do it everything unlimited, so it's always helpful. If you could just be on the Holy Spirit mode all the time, but we forget that we think we can. But I don't think. But we think we can do this myself, my way.
It's so overawing, this feeling. I've never had a feeling like it, and it just comes and it keeps coming, and I keep going.
It's just gotta just say, let the Holy Spirit sort out, and then it will be sorted out.
Sometimes I have to laugh because I go,
Yeah, it's good, because we just tend to get so serious about life and
Yeah.
it gets really scary and hard, and then we
It's
make it
okay.
reinforce it so much more.
Yeah, but I do feel like I'm detached from myself. I'm standing there and I'm over there. So it's really
That's
weird.
alright.
Is that alright?
Yeah, I think that's alright.
Yeah.
I've been transported.
I think you're, Tosha, you're absolutely right. When I first was given the course, that was way back, and I looked at the course at the time, and I thought, why did this, it was one of my counselors gave it to me. Why did she give me this book? I said, in what way would this book is practical? In fact, I've come to realize often that after many years, working with the course, actually it's very practical. You feel, out of control, you just ask, really.
You just
I
ask for
said,
it.
please help me find peace, or whatever, or bridge, from fear to, from this, lack of control, whatever that is, to the state of peace and love. So it's actually very practical.
Yeah,
And and for many years I thought, gee, this book is not going to help me in anything living out in the world. But actually, that's the beauty of it, and I totally agree with you.
And it's easy to
it's
forget
very
that it's
practical.
unlimited
We don't
access. Yeah, it's
And
so
yes,
easy
we
to
have
forget.
unlimited access indeed. Yes,
But it's so
absolutely.
easy to forget, isn't it? When you're in the
Yes.
everyday world, you
Yeah,
think
exactly.
anything is about you and nothing else, and you're in this.
And when you're in the beginning of it, you're like Bambi,
Yeah.
all over the place, because you don't know what's going on. But you just have to trust.
You have to trust. That's the
Really
hard
trust.
aspect, really, because
Yeah.
it
I feel
can
like
be
Bambi.
quite scary.
I feel
Yeah.
like Bambi on ice.
Very, very, very quickly again, for people in the early days, I've coined it the spiritual warrior attitude to feelings, or having a yes attitude to feelings, because when you start the course, feelings will come up. And I just wish quickly share my experience. I've shared it before, but using the technique, I've gone through surgery pain, after a transplant operation, saying no to all painkillers and feeling the feelings. And also with food addiction, in early food addiction, I had panic attacks, but I used the same thing, just feel out a panic attack. So what? You can't breathe, doesn't matter. That's just form and labelling. Feel out panic attacks, feel out surgery pain, and there was something else. Oh yeah, gout attacks, physical pain in the feet, swollen feet, and just an acute attack and inflammation. Just feeling that out without labelling. So when it's this thing, it's just like pent-up feelings and labelling. That's all it is. It doesn't matter. So I'm just sharing that. So it doesn't really matter what it is that comes up. If it's huge physical pain, if it's huge feelings in the body, or whatever it is, you can just, by stop labelling it or making it meaningless, and just say yes to the feeling when it's coming up. Let it come up, and it will. They've always passed, and you can have miracles happen. When I felt out with surgery pain, it took me about 13 hours after a transplant, just feeling the sensations. But then it just passed, and I remember that I got up really quickly after the transplant, and the doctor said, I knew the doctor made the connection that I took no painkillers, and I recovered really, really quickly from this. I was able to get out of bed. I hadn't taken any medication they wanted, they gave me a morphine pump, but I didn't use it, so I had to take it away because I wouldn't use it. So if you can do that with physical symptoms, it's like they just clear away. It's nothing, you don't need to hold on to it. Or panic attacks. Panic attacks are coming. Just have the faith. I mean, like I'm sharing, it does pass, and then you can't breathe for a while. It was like 15 minutes, like you can't breathe. You're tested for a while, just ride it through, and then it's gone. And I had about 3 or 4 panic attacks in early food recovery, food withdrawal from that addiction, but then I more or less never had another panic attack for 7 or 8 years, apart from a tiny one when I had my operation. So they just go away. It's like layers of the ego disappear. We had a gentleman last week, he had major depression, but he had the advice, feel it out every time it's here. And he shared that as a simple technique, and that his depression left him as well. So whatever is there, these are just blocks. And have courage, I'd share. When the feelings come up, have courage.
Just sit still, isn't it?
Sit still, yes, sit still through it.
Yeah.
Have
Be
faith.
still and know that I am.
Yeah, and again, this feeling of that you need to do something about it, but you just gotta sit still. It's alright, it will pass. You know, you gotta trust it, isn't it? And it usually does just pass. Yeah, with anything. Yeah.
And yeah, it does pass. Have faith. Have faith not to buy the thoughts like let's escape from the feeling, or let's do something.
Let's fight it, or let's get rid of it, or that kind of feeling is just.
Hawkins has done research and on different fields of consciousness, and he's also, of course, a miracles teacher. And as I've shared many times, my addiction took me to kidney failure, and I had a spiritual experience in the hospital bed. And then I was. Then what happened, through a lot of miracles, eventually I was given a DVD of Dr. Hawkins, and I had another spiritual experience. So I knew that he would be one of my spiritual teachers. Hawkins was actually one of the sponsees of Bill Wilson, one of the founders of the 12 Steps. Not only was he that, but he classically got to the field of enlightenment through spiritual work and his own experience. And he did a lot of research through kinesiology and muscle testing as to the ego. One of the topics for today is slaying the ego, or slaying the dragon, or slaying that which stands in between a strong spiritual connection. So everything becomes really, really clear. What is the ego? What is it that's blocking? What is it that's blocking a very, very strong spiritual connection? And when I had that spiritual experience in the hospital bed, it was, in hindsight, of course I didn't know at that time, it was like my ego was the thing that was blocking a connection to peace, happiness, love. And my experience now is when I'm connected to that state, all is taken care of. All that I need is given, and all is well. And miracles happen. To coin something from the 12 Steps, manageability starts to happen as well. So, what is the ego? For me, it's very, very simple. The ego is, on a very simplistic level, two aspects. The two aspects are suppressed feelings and belief systems. Now, if you've got a very, very strong ego, then that's a very, very big disconnection. And what that means, what are the two underpinnings of that, is that tons and tons of suppressed feelings which need to be released, and which addiction or various mechanisms have suppressed through long periods of time. And there'll be lots and lots of limiting belief systems as well. These belief systems are blocking the spiritual connection. So in terms of the Course in Miracles, one of the early lessons from A Course in Miracles is all my thoughts are meaningless. So the Course in Miracles is very, very profound in getting a strong connection to God, or higher power, because it's more advanced than many other places, like 12 Steps, where it's like, oh, well, some of our thoughts are meaningful, so I'll hang on to those ones, but other ones it's okay to be meaningless. So we just do a blanket, they're all meaningless, and we can let go to get that higher connection. Otherwise, the ego will be quite strong in holding on to quite a lot of its belief systems. Now, I just wanted to go through the scale now the bottom of the scale. The bottom of the scale is like there's tons and tons of, like I might be vibrating at huge levels of shame and guilt, or fear, or whatever it is. And at that level is very extremely destructive, because at that level there's tons of suppressed feelings and thoughts are going non-stop usually, and it's a field which is magnetic to self-destruction. So to try and destroy oneself, it's like you're in a field of such negativity and the thoughts are going so rapidly that usually the thoughts are very, very negative. At the bottom, when the ego is really, really big, it's like this total disconnection from Source, from God. And the thoughts are usually extremely destructive in nature. So I was like, I'm a recovered food addict now. I have been abstinent for many, many years. But, I was destroying myself with food. I was also everything I did, every thought I had was some form of destruction. I had a career in the stock market, and I was destroying myself by being a workaholic there, and even took me to places of suicidal feelings, you know, horrific suicidal feelings. So it's like, so that's the bottom layer, and it feels like one has been abandoned, and there's no hope. But the great news is that as you do spiritual work, it's very, very simple. Like once you see that you're unlayering all the suppressed feeling that's inside, which all has to be released in layers, and then the ego, since we're talking about slaying the ego today, I call my ego fluffy, so it's how can we destroy, you know, today's lecture is how to destroy fluffy, so we can be returned to sanity and peace and miracles and the love. And the connection which never abandoned me, but which can become very, very clouded, extremely clouded, and then the thoughts take on a very destructive. So I was destroying myself with food, with work, with relationships. In fact, it's a field of destruction, and it comes up, the lower you're in, the darker the thoughts get. And really all the thoughts are like, let's have another bag of donuts, let's try and stay even later at work, you know, and let's make my boss happy, who isn't someone you'd really want to make happy, because you'd probably destroy yourself to make him happy. So everything wasn't quite, it was good. But the good news is that as you let go of the suppressed feelings, and the feelings can also come up as psychosomatic pains and illnesses, or illnesses may come up as well, suddenly, out of the ego. As you let all of this go, you move to higher levels. At a certain level, the level, as you let the feelings go, and you let go of the limiting beliefs through the Course in Miracles, whatever, resentments or fears, then you get to a level, say, of anger. So you've let go of a lot of fear and shame and guilt. Now the dominant level might be anger. There you tend to be, that's really, really positive from the bottom layers, which are extremely self-destructive. There you might want to kill everyone, but you've actually made a lot of progress, because that anger means you've released a lot of the lower levels, and you'll be less destructive, but still attracted to angry situations or looking at the world in an angry way. And also feeling that, well, I'll just talk very briefly about the level, another level, which is desire, which is addiction. And that level is like, you need to find something from outside that's going to fix you, and it's never enough. While you're vibrating at that level, which I was a dominant addict, you know, one donut was never enough. And then you try and have another donut, and that wasn't enough. Nothing was ever enough to fill the void. So, now, if you do a bit more work and let go of your holding on to thoughts, and also let the feelings that come up, and sometimes they may come up as psychosomatic illness, which happened in my case as well. There can be major illnesses or major things to go through physically. So you let that go, then you'll get to neutrality, then eventually you get to places like acceptance, peace, and love. And what's happening there is that a lot of the limiting beliefs that were dominating within the ego have been released, and there's a greater, it's very now starting to get a strong connection to inner peace, and that connection to God becomes much, much stronger. In fact, you know, I think a lot of you will be able to realize that it's actually the most important thing. When you lose that connection, that's the most important thing. And so it's really bad when you lose the connection, but you know, the connection can be got back. It's just a simple case of applying what needs to be applied. And then you know from the experience of others and people who've done research, that you just climb up the layers and let the suppressed feelings go. If tears are coming out, then cry them out. If pain is coming out, you know, I can go into methods of just not labeling and just allowing the feelings to come without labeling. All kinds of symptoms can be, you know, it can be done on colds, flus, surgery pain, gout pain, asthma symptoms, all kinds of things. Let go of the thoughts, and allow the feelings to be. And more, we'll be talking later. Eventually, one recognizes that something is watching and observing all of these feelings and thoughts, which has always been here, and is not effective. So it just allows these things. And then you're connecting to the higher levels. You're no longer starting to buy the stories. This pain in the body is me, or this person is important, or these symptoms are what I am. So there's a letting go of the purchasing of all of these things, and there's starting to reconnect on a spiritual level. So just do that. So next we'll be doing cancelling of beliefs, and cancelling of beliefs is very, very powerful. That's also related to lesson 14 of A Course in Miracles, which states that along the lines of God did not create cancer, so it's not real. God did not create war, so it's not real. God did not create horrible bosses, so they're not real. God did not create darkness, so it's not real. So all of these things, you can cancel them. Or there's another way of doing it, which is I cancel my belief in cancer. I'm an infinite being subject only to what I hold in mind. You can cancel your belief in anything. You can even, you can cancel your belief in poor eyesight. You can cancel your belief in symptoms. I cancel my belief in kidney failure. I'm an infinite being subject only to what I hold in mind. I cancel my belief I'm disconnected from the source. I'm an infinite being subject only to what I hold in mind. Whatever it is. Just very, very quickly, as I shared, most of you know, how powerful is cancelling? And I think it's not the biggest miracle I've had, but I think it's one of those like, it sounds amazing miracle, which is that, when I was in hospital and I had just had my transplant operation, I was given, I think, about 13 medications. And I cancelled my belief in adverse effects from the medications. I'm infinite being subject only to what I hold in mind. And within 3 years, I was on one medication, and the consultant said to me that he doesn't know of anyone else that's a transplant patient that takes less medication than me, just by doing the Course in Miracles. So it sounds very, very simple, but doing the Course in Miracles and doing the work, and of course, I've had miracles with asthma, symptoms of kidney failure, had a transplant. The gout has left me, I had to stop the medication for that because I didn't need it any longer. So it's very, very, very powerful work. And it's always, what we're talking about here through the Course in Miracles, and also I'll be talking a little bit about, there's a picture there of Ramana, and of Muji, of a process to get in connection with the source again, no matter what's going on.